It was early June on the central Texas coast, and I was in search of kingfish. I've been fishing with a couple of buddies of mine a few miles north of Surfside Beach, Texas, but for 3 days we see no kingfish at all. My friends said they had to head back home, but I had one more day. So I decided to do a recon run to the Surfside Beach jetty to see what was going on there. And I was absolutely amazed at what I found. As I walked the jetty, I began to notice that everyone's coolers were overflowing with kingfish. There were even a few Spanish mackerel and a few sharks thrown in for good measure. Several kings were being brought in just as I walked to the end of the jetty and back. They were just absolutely slaying the kingfish. It was amazing. It was the kind of scene I had always heard about, but I had never experienced firsthand. The Brazos River was in flood stage, dumping massive amounts of dirty water into the Gulf. The Chocolate River continued out into the sea, creating a funnel effect, drawing the fish right to the jetty. It was the perfect storm of fishing, and I was going to miss it. The sun was getting low, and I was not prepared to fish, but I knew where I would be at first light in the morning.
Ready for more extreme kayak fishing action from way out beyond the breakers. You are watching BTB Adventures with your host, Jason Ballou.
BTB Adventures is brought to you by BigSharkTackle.com, your source for extreme kayak fishing accessories and big game tackle.
The plan was to catch some mullet before heading out to fish near the end of the jetty. Unfortunately, as I arrived, I found the trout fishermen lined up all along the beach. There would be no catching bait this morning without making some mortal enemies. Since I didn't have any live bait, I resorted to trolling some artificials and my few remaining ribbon fish. About mid-morning, I noticed the action starting to heat up on the jetty. I, on the other hand, wasn't seeing any action at all. As the sun rose higher, all the trout fishermen moved on, so I was finally able to head back to shore and catch some live bait. With the live well full, I anchored off near the dirty water in an area that was somewhat murky. I later realized it was just murky on the surface. The water just below the surface was clear. After a short while, I got my first run. As the fish headed off onto the horizon, I realized that a nearby boat was about to troll right over my line. I desperately tried to get their attention, and I did just in the nick of time. fish was still ripping the 50-pound braid off my reel and not slowing down. I realized I was just about to get spooled, so it's time to cut loose. Got a kingfish, but needs to start. Goodbye. Okay, let's go get that kingfish. He jumped out of the water in front of us while we're trying to get that guy. I've got my live well here that I don't use very often, but today it has come in handy. Unfortunately, my battery ran out pretty quick, so we're doing the manual live well now. Trying to keep these guys alive, catch one more fish. Kings had begun to ambush the mullet from below, sometimes soaring 10 or 15 feet up in the air. It was quite an amazing show. It's just irritating sitting here watching them jump out of the water. That guy's heading towards my bait. Oh yeah, that's the kingfish. That's the kingfish. Yeah, feeling good about that one. Feeling really good about that one. With my king finally in the cooler, it was time to head home. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next BTB Adventures.